Hey guys, it's finally here. It's the Lit Sports Online Fantasy Football Special. We're going to be giving you sleepers and busts. Check the description. We got rankings from Fantasy Pros, and we also have average draft positions for the players. But we really just wanted to give you all some tips about what type of players you should be avoiding in your drafts and which ones you should pick up late as sleepers. So why don't we start with quarterback? Gerald, do you have like a sleeper or bust in mind?
Yeah, actually, I want to go with Dak Prescott. A lot of people are hesitant about second-year quarterbacks. A lot of quarterbacks don't have really good second years. I mean, we've seen it in Cam Newton and various other quarterbacks in the past. But I'm confident in Dak Prescott. Last year when he started, of course, it wasn't a job he had planned for. Of course, it was because Tony Romo got injured. But this year, after having a long off season and being able to have the full reins of the team handed to him without any hesitation, I think he's going to have a really productive second year.
I think it's very likely. I think that the reason his draft stocks are depressed right now is because people are looking at how tough the passing schedule is going to be for the Cowboys this year. They're playing a lot of top passing defenses. But still, I don't think that warrants him going in like the 13th or 14th round. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. He was a top 10 quarterback last year. I would be able to trust him as my starting quarterback. Wouldn't be like a top option for me, but I think that's a good sleeper pick.
Yeah, definitely.
And who do you got for a bust?
Now, in terms of a bust, Ben Roethlisberger. I think he's in the sunset of his career. Again, AFC North is tough. It's a tough division. You got to play all these teams 2 times a year. And not to mention, their schedule is pretty tough on the corners and defensive backs they're going to be playing this year. So I think Roethlisberger, at the sunset of his career, probably won't produce the way he has in years past. Even though he still has weapons around him, expect him not to produce the way he has.
Well, you took who was going to be my bust pick for quarterback, and I think it's one of those things where it seems like every year someone's relying on Ben Roethlisberger to be their starting fantasy quarterback, but he's only been a top 10 quarterback once in the past like 7 years for fantasy.
Wow.
So and the thing about Roethlisberger is he plays really well at home generally, but he sucks when he plays away teams. I don't know why it works out like that, but it's like everyone knows that about Roethlisberger. And yeah, the fact that he's like contemplating retirement at this point, I don't want any part of him.
Yeah, I mean, if you're contemplating retirement, you know your body's not producing as well, and you know your gameplay is not going to be A1. So yeah, just let him go.
Yeah, average draft position for him in the 8th round. That's too rich for me. I'll take another quarterback later. Which brings me to my sleeper pick of Tyrod Taylor, Buffalo Bills.
Wow.
You know, in one of the leagues I did last year, he finished as the 7th best quarterback, and that was even having like Sammy Watkins off the field most of the year. So this is a guy even with limited weapons can actually put up a good season. The one thing you worry about is just, is he going to get hurt? But outside of that, I don't have any real worries about the guy. I mean, they bring in Anquan Bolden. I mean, that's going to give him potentially more touchdowns in the red zone.
Yeah.
So I really like Tyrod Taylor as a safe quarterback you can draft super late.
And not to mention, he's an athletic guy. He can get out of the pocket. He can make plays on the move. Again, also, as you said, Anquan Bolden's there. Anquan Bolden was great with the Ravens. They have some history there, played on the same team. So it's going to be interesting to see them lock up together, Tyrod now being a leader of a team.
Yeah, and for the 11th round, you're telling me you have the potential of a healthy Watkins and an Anquan Bolden come in, and I'm going to take that every day. Yeah. So now let's move on to running back. What do you have for running back?
Surprisingly, rookie Jamal Williams out of BYU, go figure. He's actually been getting first team reps with the Green Bay Packers. And again, this is an explosive runner in college. I think his combine day wasn't as good as a lot of people expected. But again, there's a difference between the combine and running with about 10, 15, 20 pounds of pads on. So, again, if you look at his BYU history, he's played against good schools, and he's actually is the historical top rusher for BYU. I expect that to carry on with Green Bay. They have a good line. They have a good team there with Aaron Rodgers at the head of it. So I'm looking for Jamal Williams to have a breakout year this year. I think a lot of people are going to pass over him. I'm not. I think definitely probably a later pick, obviously. But again, this is a kid that's going to get you good numbers. He's a hardworking kid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm someone that really believes in Ty Montgomery. I think he's more than a third down back and he can actually handle a full workload. But even still, Jamal Williams is going super late in drafts. So if you believe in the kid, I think that's a good sleeper pick. Yeah. You have a bust?
In terms of a bust, Marshawn Lynch. I love Beast Mode. Beast Mode, I know what. You know why he's here. Nothing better than Beast Mode during that Super Bowl year. one of the best running backs, I think, arguably in history. I think he's a great running back, explosive power, great agility. But this is a Marshawn Lynch that has had a year off. Of course, no denying his work ethic. I'm sure he's been working out. He's been really going hard. You know, now he's on the New Oakland Raiders team. This is a different team. I don't see him producing the way he did with the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think the only justification for Marshawn Lynch going early in drafts is just that the Oakland offensive line is so great. But, I mean, you know, you figure he's going to be an injury risk, and he also, there's a risk that he's coming back completely washed, in which case the guys behind him, Richard and Washington, can easily just step in and be it becomes a timeshare, and at that point he is a bust pick. So, yeah, I think there's some merit to that as well. So for my sleeper at the running back position, I'm going to surprise you and go with a Browns player. How about Duke Johnson? Anybody heard of Duke Johnson?
Do you know the defense he has to play against?
Hey, this guy's going in the 11th round of fantasy drafts, and we're talking about a guy that was the all-time rushing leader for University of Miami. So this guy often gets looked at as like a Sproles type that's just a third down back that catches passes, and he did have over 500 receiving yards last year, but no, I think this guy's actually a threat to Isaiah Crowell's job if Crowell struggles. I think he's a guy that if he gets into that starting spot, he's going to be able to do everything for the Browns. Now, again, it is the Browns, but I'm actually on board with one of those people that says the Browns are going to be better than other people expect this year. I mean, Vegas odds on them are like, what, 4.5 wins over-under? I'm taking the over on that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So that's my sleeper. My bust, I think there's a couple guys you could have picked as a bust. I'm going to go with Jay Ajayi from the Dolphins. He's being drafted early second round. For me, that's too rich. I mean, I had him on one of my teams last year, and he was good for a stretch. He had those 2 games of 200-plus yards rushing. So we know what he can do when his line's completely healthy. Here's the problem. I'm smelling like what happened with Todd Gurley last year. Probably happened to Ajayi, where like they just load up the box on him because now they see him as a threat. They bring a washed Jay Cutler back to be their starting quarterback. That just smells loading the box to me. And then the fact that he's really just a 2-down grinder. He doesn't really have the receiving game in his skill set. So if they stack the box, and if he gets injuries at O-line, he's done. He's not going to be able to do anything at that point. So that brings us on to receivers. Who you got?
I got Jeremy Maclin. Excited to have him on the Ravens. I think, new team and new opportunities here. And with Flacco returning, I think Jeremy will surely hit that. He's going to hit the ground running with him. The Ravens are also wide receiver hungry. So now that we got I think what's going to be a feature receiver, he's definitely going to fill that hole left by Steve Smith. And I think he's going to be a great target for Joe Flacco now that Joe Flacco doesn't have Dennis Pitta or Crockett Gilmore for all that matter. So his tight ends are going. He's going to have to start throwing deep. Hopefully Joe stays healthy to keep this going, but I think it's a safe bet that Jeremy Maclin will be an overlooked receiver, but he's definitely going to put up lots of numbers.
Yeah, I really like that sleeper pick because he's going in like the later middle rounds of drafts, and he's definitely going to be the most targeted receiver in Baltimore. The other guys on the roster, Perriman, Mike Wallace, they're more deep threats. They'll get their targets deep, but they're not going to get fed the ball.
They're feeding Maclin the ball.
Maclin's going to be fed. It's the last year they had the most pass attempts, the Ravens, so it's definitely a really safe pick later on.
Yeah.
Get him as your wide receiver 4 or 5 in your draft. You're going to be very happy with that. Do you have a bust for receiver?
Des Bryant. Simply, I don't think he's going to be able to perform. I mean, he's going to be a good receiver. I think he's going to have a decent season, but I don't think he's going to put up numbers that he has in years past. I just don't see it happening. Too many top corners that he's going to be playing, not to mention also the top overall defenses.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because that actually feeds right into my sleeper receiver, who is Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley going in the 14th round on average.
The overlooked receiver.
And remember last year, who was the one building the rapport with Dak Prescott? It was Cole Beasley.
Exactly.
Whenever Cole Beasley, even though he's the third receiver on the depth chart, the slot receiver, but whenever he was on the field, he was getting fed targets. He was easily Dak Prescott's favorite option when on the field.
Yeah.
And I just look at what he did last year. He had 75 receptions, 5 touchdowns. I think he's going to come up on that now that the rapport has been established and because Des Bryant has all those top corners covered.
Exactly. Definitely with top corners on him, Cole Beasley's definitely going to be an easier target. A lot of people are going to sleep on him.
Yeah.
What about your bust?
So my bust, and some people might knock me for this, but I'm going with Tyreek Hill from the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, on paper, it looks like his situation improved with the fact that he's been promoted to their #1 receiver role. Here's the problem, though. Yes, Tyreek Hill as a rookie had double-digit touchdowns, factored in receiving, rushing, and returns. Number one, I'm hearing that they're going to take him off of returns. Now he's #1 receiver. That limits that upside of getting return touchdowns. And then even worse, I don't think Tyreek Hill is fit for a #1 receiver role. I mean, I don't think he has the size for it. Some people are trying to compare him to Steve Smith. I don't agree. I don't think he's in the same league as Steve Smith. I think that,
Very few are.
Coming out of college, I think this is a guy came out of a small school in college, and he wasn't even that dominant in college. So his rookie season honestly screams more fluke to me than it does, oh, this is the next great receiver. And this guy's going in the 4th round. It's just way too high.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely he's going to leave a lot of people wishing they had more. Definitely not. A lot of people are not in the league of Steve Smith. I think it's a little bit early to be saying such a thing. I could see why comparisons are there, but not sure he's going to be a valid point that early.
And there's just too many other receivers I like at that spot. So that's why he's a bust for me. Do you have any tight ends on your list?
I do have one sleeper pick for tight end, and that's Kyle Rudolph, a top 5 last year. He plays for the Vikings. He is going to be a great target for Sam Bradford, a good check down, tight end. Definitely great in the goal line position. I do see him having a good season. I mean,
yeah. I mean, not
much to say.
Last year he was like the 5th best tight end in PPR. I mean, so the guy's already shown that he's had the breakout. See, Kyle Rudolph's one of those guys years past, everyone was hoping for him to break out, and he just kept getting hurt. So there always is that little injury risk, but as long as he stays healthy, there's no reason to think this guy's finishing outside of the top 8 tight ends. So where he's going in the middle of rounds, I think that's a great pick.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, for my sleeper, I've got Eric Ebron with the Lions. Now, a lot of people are going to think about Eric Ebron. They think last year he actually had a bad year when really he didn't. See, the thing is, he finished 14th best tight end in PPR, only had 1 touchdown, but the thing is he did the 14th best when he missed a couple games. And the 1 touchdown is a concern, but here's why it's going to come up, is that they got rid of Anquan Bolden. He was the touchdown vulture. Anytime he got in red zone, Stafford's passing to Bolden, and now someone else needs to get those touchdowns. And I think Ebron's... maybe he's not going to get all the way up to double digits or anything crazy like that, but can he go from 1 to 5 or 6? Easily. So he's going to get more targets. He's already 14th best last year in PPR, so very safe pick for me in the 12th round to get Eric Ebron as my tight end.
I like it.
And then for my bust, guys, fantasy football doesn't have to be hard. Hunter Henry is going in the 8th round, and he's the 2nd-string tight end on his own team. I don't understand this.
That doesn't make sense at all.
Now, I get it. When Gates had that injury going last year, he filled in admirably. He was getting a lot of touchdowns. But outside of just vulturing those touchdowns, he didn't do much else. He didn't have a lot of receptions or a lot of yards. When Gates is on the field, you can't expect much of this guy. I mean... It's one of those things where unless he gets a touchdown that week, you have a complete dud in your lineup. So to take this guy as your starter in the 8th round especially makes 0 sense to me. And he's easily my top bust for tight end. So all that leaves left is defense. What do you got?
Defense, I'm going with the Ravens defense. They're always a good sleeper pick for me, decent defense. And they're not even sleepers. They're a solid defense. And I think this year... more pressure is going to be on them to uphold the games for the Ravens this year. They're going to have to perform. They're a little bit younger. I think the Ravens front office has done a great job building up a secondary that was virtually depleted after Ed Reed has left. Eric Weddle's back there. Got some great corners there. And I think this is going to be a solid defense. I think there are some ball hawks out there that are going to be able to return some this year. I'm calling it.
I think worst case scenario with Baltimore, I mean, you can start him against the Browns twice a year. And then, honestly, I think you can start him against the Bengals, too, because the Bengals have one of the worst offensive lines this year. So
I still have Suggs out there. Suggs is still out there. Again, this is, with fantasy, it's more of a overall team, not just individuals, but individuals make plays.
Okay. So, I don't have a whole lot of analysis backing my defense picks, but... I'll start with my sleeper, which is the Buffalo Bills. And really what I like about the Bills is a couple things. They're changing to a 4-3 scheme this year, which I think better fits the personnel they have. I mean, they got Jerry Hughes and Shaq Lawson that I think would be better in the 4-3. Young, an upcoming defense. And what I like best about drafting the Bills this year in fantasy, though, is guess who they play week 1?
Who?
The Jets.
Oh,
Who just lost Quincy Enunwa for the year, by the way. So I actually think they're going to be a much worse offense than even the Browns. Like, this is the team you want to stream.
Do the Jets even have a solid quarterback to play against?
Who's even going to be their quarterback? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know who their quarterback is. No. Their top receiver's gone. I mean, these guys got nobody on offense other than, like, Bilal Powell. I mean, that's, like, it. That's their offense. So...
It's a great week 1, pick right there.
Yeah, like, worst case scenario, draft them and play him week 1, and you're going to get some good points. And then that brings me my bust. It's actually the New York Jets defense. And it's not even that much because of the defense. It's because, I think the New York Jets, I wouldn't be surprised to go winless this year. That's how bad they're going to be. Like, they have their offense is not competitive. Their defense has been draftable in the past. But what changes now is that, like, if you're going to be such a low-win team, that means you're getting scored on. And I think the offense is going to put this defense in such bad positions that they're going to give up a lot of points. So
morale's definitely going to be low.
that's all it is. It's not even that their players are that bad on defense. Just the offense is going to set them up in bad positions.
Yeah.
So that's our sleepers and busts episode for Fantasy Football 2017. Again, make sure you check out those links in the description, subscribe, and like the video.
And real quickly, big shout out to my nephew, Nick Katz, who just actually started his sophomore football season at center at Parkville High. So I'm excited to see him play this year. I'm excited actually to cover a lot of local sports. We're still doing that. Local colleges, high schools. Yeah, we're doing all that this year. So stay tuned for definitely a lot of great content this year. I'm excited. Football season's back.
It's back, baby.
Woo!
I don't have anything.
I am the Dennis Pitta. I am Dennis Pitta.
You can't force